So this is an adult bedtime story. If you're interested in being kept informed about future adult bedtime stories, just subscribe below, and if you enjoy this bedtime story, find it helpful, please leave a comment and give it a thumbs up as well. So I hope you enjoy this story. And you can take a moment to make sure you're comfortable and to allow your eyes to close. And allow yourself to begin to drift off to sleep. And I don't know whether you'll drift off to sleep faster with the words that I use or with the spaces between my words, whether it'll be with the sound of my voice or with moments of silence, or just drifting comfortably asleep to the story. And as you begin to drift comfortably asleep, I'm going to tell you a story about Santa. Now, most of the year, Santa drops into a hibernation. And then on about the 22nd of December, he comes out of hibernation and starts to prepare for Christmas. And you may be thinking that that's a bit late for him to prepare for Christmas, but Santa has a few tricks up his sleeve. See, Santa is really a man who 300 years ago developed the ability to control time. And what he found was that he could pause time, he could speed time up, he could slow time down. So when he enters hibernation, he goes into a kind of stasis where he doesn't age. He then comes out of hibernation a few days before Christmas, does what he's got to do, and then on Boxing Day, he goes back to bed again, re-enters hibernation, and drifts off to sleep for almost an entire year. And so when Santa exits hibernation, the elves have found the letters from children, from people all over the world, asking for what they want. And the elves have been gathering all of the presents over the month before Christmas. And some people get their lists in late. So the elves work right up to the last minute to gather presents. And all Santa has to do is review the list of presents and check that everything has been bought that's required. So he goes through the entire list, and to be able to have enough time to leisurely do that, he pauses time. He has a room on the North Pole where he can pause time and take all the time he needs to read the list. And so with time paused, he reads that list, checks that all the items are purchased, and starts loading them onto his sleigh. And every couple of years, Santa has to rebuild a whole new sleigh to accommodate the increase in people he has to deliver to. And his sleigh is much like the TARDIS, in that it looks a normal size, yet inside the storage compartment it's huge. And that's an advantage of Santa mastering space and time, that he's been able to use alternative dimensions to make normal space larger than it really is. And then once his sleigh is loaded, his sleigh has another secret. His sleigh can totally stop time while still being able to physically travel itself. So as soon as the time comes, and the clock in Santa's office strikes time, Santa starts delivering his presents. He freezes real-world time and takes all the time he needs to deliver presents from the top of the earth down to the bottom of the earth within that one time zone. And then when he reaches the North Pole again, he starts time, does his checks, makes sure that all presents were delivered, makes sure that everything's ready for his next run through. And then an hour later, he freezes time again. And again he travels down from the North Pole, all the way around the earth, from top to bottom and back up again, within the next time zone. Delivering all the presents that he needs to. And then when he reaches the North Pole again, he unfreezes time, goes through his checks, makes sure he's definitely delivered everything he's supposed to, checks what he's got to deliver on his next round, makes sure that they're all the things that are on top, and then on the next hour, he freezes time again and delivers all the presents again, from the North Pole, all the way round the earth, from the top down to the bottom, within that time zone, and then all the way back up the other side, back to the North Pole again. And Santa does this all night long, making multiple journeys, delivering presents to everyone that needs presents around the earth. And just to deliver these presents, in this way. Take Santa, the equivalent of 6 months' worth of hours of working. Because although it seems instant to the people he delivers to Santa he has to travel in his sleigh. He has to arrive at every single house, every single flat. He has to let himself in. He has to find his way in. He has to place the correct presents. He stops for food breaks from time to time, mainly eating mince pies and having some drink of milk. He never touches brandy when that's left out, because he won't drink and drive. He has to then get out of that person's house, get back to his sleigh, move on to the next person's house. And he has to do that across the entire world. And although he's got a grasp of time and space, to Santa it still takes him about 6 months, even though in real world time only 1 night passes around the world. And so by the time Christmas Day is over, Santa's exhausted and looking forward to his hibernation. And just before Christmas Day is over, he pauses time, he does one last check, checking he's definitely delivered everything he should. Checking in with the elves, making sure that they're okay and they're aware what they need to do across the next year. And checking a few other bits and pieces, odd jobs, tasks that just need to be done, even by Santa. Before then going and drifting back into a hibernation. And then while Santa is in hibernation, the elves take care of his place. They keep it clean and tidy. And as the next Christmas approaches, they get all the lists, they go to the shops, they make all the relevant purchases. And you may wonder how Santa can afford to buy everyone in the entire world gifts every year. The advantage of mastering space and time is that Santa was able to invest well hundreds of years ago. And money he invested then increases year on year. And when you're over 300 years old, even what seemed like small amounts of money can turn into huge amounts of money. And the elves have the ability that they can take on human form, or at least as far as humans see it. So they're able to travel the world, gathering up presents through the year. Ready for when their boss comes out of hibernation next. And while Santa drifts into hibernation, it's a bit like falling asleep. And Santa drifts off to sleep, and while he sleeps, he dreams. And his body rests and recuperates. And as his body rests and recuperates and he sleeps and dreams, he starts to drift off and wonder about lives he's led, about what he used to do hundreds of years ago, about what he gave up when he decided to take on this role of Santa. Before being Santa, he was just an ordinary inventor, kept himself to himself, just inventing things that interested him. But once he invented a way to control space and time, he knew that he had to be careful not to affect the lives of others, not to mess with the continuum. That if he started using it to change things, there could be unforeseen circumstances, and that even when you try and change time for the better, normally something doesn't work out so good for someone. And each time you try to correct something, because of the butterfly effect, the outcome you get is always unpredictable, the further away from that point you get. So he wanted to make people feel good. He wanted to help. He didn't want his technology, his invention, to end up in the wrong hands. So he moved away. He paused time, giving himself plenty of time to get to the North Pole. Giving himself plenty of time to build at the North Pole. And he decided that he would use his technology to benefit people, to give people things that they want, things that will make their lives better, things that will make people smile. while Santa sleeps, he regenerates and de-ages. Because Santa sleeps in a time capsule that to anyone else would just look like a normal bed. But while he's asleep in this normal bed, in his hibernation, it stimulates his cells to rejuvenate, to heal themselves. Undoing all the damage that perhaps has been done through his time outside of hibernation. And this has helped him to maintain his appearance, to maintain the same age that he was when he developed his invention. And he doesn't want this getting in the wrong hands either. He's aware over the 300 years how population has expanded and grown without an invention that can significantly prolong life like his. He's aware what would happen to the population if his invention got out and everyone was using it. And every Christmas, Santa awakens from his hibernation for just a few days to bring joy to the people of the world, to bring something good, have something that brings people together, makes people smile. Makes people unite. Makes people feel valued. Makes people feel like at least someone is thinking of them. And Santa likes to think that he spreads his presence in the present. With his presence. And as Santa freezes time, there are times people have caught a glimpse of him, but they don't really notice. They have almost like a subliminal memory that they saw him. Almost like they saw him out the corner of their eye. If there's a child in a room and Santa appears, it's a bit like Santa being on a single frame on an entire movie. And as the movie plays, you may think you saw something just flash on the screen for a moment, but it's so brief you can't be certain, and you never get a chance to see it again. And so Santa, being present in someone's house, walking around, people frozen still, taking his time in the house to place the presents correctly, to hang stockings. People have almost like a subliminal scene in their mind where Santa is almost just like a fuzzy image, almost like a red blur, like a long exposure light image. Where Santa is in all the places that he was, all within that moment. And with all that hard work, Santa enjoys his sleep. Finds it really easy after all that hard work to drift off to sleep, to hibernate, to relax. Only coming out at Christmas to transform lives. And as Santa drifts into hibernation, relaxes, so you can fall asleep. And sleep soundly and comfortably and relax. Sleeping soundly and comfortably and relaxed.